You didn't raise your voice. You didn't explain yourself. You didn't beg for respect. Because egos don't break from violence. They break from indifference. You walked away quietly, and 1,000 egos shattered behind you. They expected you to react, to argue, to defend yourself, to prove something. That's how weak minds survive. They live on attention. They breathe validation. They feed on reactions. But you gave them none. You chose silence. And silence is brutal to insecure people. You didn't hurt them by winning. You hurt them by not caring if you won. You didn't chase approval. You didn't explain your intentions. You didn't shrink yourself to make them comfortable. That single decision destroyed identities they spent years building. Ego is fragile. It pretends to be strong, but it collapses the moment it isn't acknowledged. And you stopped acknowledging them. No applause, no validation, no emotional access, just distance. That distance felt like disrespect to them, but to you, it was survival. They laughed when you were quiet. They mistook your patience for weakness. They thought silence meant submission. They were wrong. Silence was strategy. Distance was discipline, and your calm was control. You didn't attack them. You outgrew them. And nothing hurts an ego more than being left behind by someone they thought they were better than. Watch closely what happens when egos are wounded. They gossip. They rewrite stories. They try to provoke reactions. They try to pull you back into chaos. Because chaos is where they feel powerful. But you didn't return. You see, ego needs comparison to survive. It needs someone beneath it. Someone reacting. Someone chasing. When you stop playing the role they assigned you, their entire self-image cracked. They couldn't control you anymore. You didn't need revenge. Your growth was enough. You didn't need to explain. Your absence said everything. You didn't need to prove strength. Your composure exposed theirs. People with big egos fear one thing above all else: irrelevance. And you made them feel exactly that. Why isn't he reacting? Why doesn't she care anymore? Why didn't they break like we expected? Because you learned something they never will. Your worth does not come from their approval. You stopped negotiating your value. Stopped shrinking your presence. Stopped explaining your boundaries. And the moment you did that, you became dangerous. Not loud, not aggressive. Dangerous in silence. You became the mirror they didn't want to look into. Your peace exposed their insecurity. Your discipline exposed their laziness. Your progress exposed their excuses. And egos hate exposure. That's why they tried to label you arrogant, cold, selfish, changed. But let's be honest, you didn't change. You evolved, and they stayed the same. When you no longer need validation, you gain power. When you no longer explain yourself, you gain authority. When you stop reacting emotionally, you gain control. And control is terrifying. To people who survive on manipulation, you hurt 1,000 egos by choosing self-respect over approval, by choosing discipline over drama, by choosing silence over explanation, by choosing yourself. They wanted you dependent. They wanted you insecure. They wanted you available. You became none of those things, and that shook their world. Now they watch from a distance, quietly, carefully, obsessively. They study your moves, your confidence, your silence, because the person they once underestimated became the standard they can't reach. You didn't need to announce your growth. They felt it. You didn't need to confront them. Your absence was confrontation. You didn't need to fight. You won by walking away. This is the truth no one talks about. The strongest revenge is becoming untouchable, emotionally, mentally, psychologically. You hurt egos that thought they owned access to you. You hurt egos that believed you needed them. You hurt egos that underestimated your discipline. They don't hate you because you're wrong. They hate you because you're free. Free from their opinions. Free from their approval. Free from their control. People who are secure don't get offended by boundaries. Only egos do. You didn't hurt them intentionally. You didn't plan it. You didn't seek it. You simply refused to stay small, and that was unforgivable to them. Let them be uncomfortable. Let them misunderstand you. Let them talk. Let them project. Your job isn't to explain your growth to people who benefited from your weakness. You didn't lose people. You lost weight, dead weight, ego weight, distraction weight, and you move faster now. You change, smile, because growth always looks like arrogance. To people who refuse to evolve, you didn't hurt 1,000 egos by attacking them. You hurt them. You destroyed them by walking away intact. That's what they never expected, because people with egos this fragile are trained to believe everyone reacts, everyone breaks, everyone begs. You didn't, and that single fact rewrote everything they thought they knew about you. Egos are loud. They announce themselves. They demand recognition. They need constant confirmation that they matter. But you became quiet, and quiet people scare egos, because silence gives no feedback, no weakness, no entry point. They couldn't read you anymore. They couldn't control the narrative. They couldn't predict your moves, and that uncertainty started eating them alive. They replayed conversations in their heads, reread old messages, analyzed your tone, your pauses, your distance, not because they cared about you, but because they cared about what losing access to you meant. You see, ego doesn't miss people. Ego misses power they thought they owned. They were comfortable when you doubted yourself, when you over-explained, when you tried to prove loyalty, when you tolerated disrespect. You stopped asking questions, stopped seeking permission, stopped waiting to be be chosen. You chose yourself. The moment you did that, you became a threat. They began to feel it, that strange discomfort, that tightness in the chest, that irritation they couldn't explain, because deep down, they knew something had shifted. The balance changed. They told themselves stories. He thinks he's better now. She got arrogant. He forgot where he came from. But those were lies. The truth was simpler. You remembered who you were. You didn't need them anymore. And nothing wounds ego like irrelevance. Watch how ego reacts. When it can't dominate, first it mocks, then it minimizes, then it attacks. And when none of that works, it plays victim. But you stayed unmoved. No reaction, no defense, no apology, just progress. That's when they realized they were no longer part of your future. And that realization hit harder than any insult ever could. You became disciplined. You controlled your emotions, your time, your focus. And discipline is dangerous because it cannot be manipulated. They tried to pull you back. Old memories, fake concern, sudden kindness. But you saw it for what it was, a desperate attempt to regain relevance. You learned something crucial. Not everyone deserves the new version of you. Some people only knew the broken you, and they resented your healing. Your growth exposed their stagnation. Your calm exposed their chaos. Your focus exposed their confusion. Your confidence exposed their insecurity. You didn't say a word, and still they felt attacked, because ego feels threatened by anyone who refuses to play small. They wanted a reaction. They wanted anger. They wanted hate, because hate means attachment. But you gave them neutrality, and neutrality is death to ego. You didn't hate them. You outgrew them. Now they watch you silently. Every win, every step forward, every glow up. They pretend not to care, but they care deeply, because every time you succeed, it confirms their biggest fear, that you never needed them. They remember how they treated you, the disrespect, the dismissal, the arrogance, and now they wonder, what if we were wrong? But ego won't allow accountability. So instead of apologizing, they criticize. Instead of learning, they judge. Instead of growing, they resent. You see the difference now. You chose discomfort. They chose comfort. You chose growth. They chose ego. That's why when pressure came, you adapted. And when pressure came for them, they broke. You didn't become cold. You became selective. You didn't lose empathy. You learned boundaries. You didn't turn evil. You stopped being naive. This is where the villain era begins. Not because you want revenge, but because you refuse to be weak again. You understand power now. Real power doesn't shout. It doesn't chase. It doesn't explain. It moves quietly and lets results speak. You hurt 1,000 egos because you didn't collapse, because you didn't beg, because you didn't need closure. You created it. They don't know how to approach you. Too distant to control. Too calm to provoke. Too focused to distract. You became untouchable. Let them misunderstand you. People who benefit from your weakness will always hate your strength. This is your reminder. You were never difficult. You were never arrogant. You were never the problem. You were just waking up. Once someone wakes up, they can never be controlled again. You didn't hurt them with words. You didn't embarrass them publicly. You didn't expose their secrets. You did something far worse. You became unreachable. An ego cannot survive where it has no access. They were used to you explaining yourself, used to you justifying your decisions, used to you staying even when it hurt. You fed their sense of superiority. When you stopped feeding it, they started starving. They didn't take it seriously. They thought it was a phase, a mood, a moment. They assumed you'd come back. People with ego always do, except you didn't. Days passed, then weeks, then silence became permanent, and slowly, panic replaced confidence. Because silence forces reflection, and reflection exposes truth. They began to notice something uncomfortable. Life was still moving, but without you, and somehow, it felt emptier. Not because you were kind, but because you were grounding. You were the one who absorbed chaos, who tolerated disrespect, who stayed calm while they acted reckless. You were balanced, and they never thanked you for it. Now that balance was gone, and everything started shaking. They tried to reach you indirectly, through others, through gossip, through fake concern. Have you heard from them? They've changed. They think they're above everyone now, but deep down, they weren't angry, they were afraid. Because when someone leaves without noise, without drama, without revenge, it means they've gained clarity, and clarity is irreversible. You see, ego can fight anger, ego can fight rebellion, but ego cannot fight indifference. Indifference means you no longer need their validation, and validation was the currency they controlled you with. They remembered moments they thought meant nothing, times they dismissed you, times they mocked your ambition, times they underestimated your silence. At the time, they felt powerful. Now, those memories feel like warnings. They underestimated one thing. Pain taught you discipline, and discipline sharpened your mind. While they were loud, you were learning. While they were laughing, you were observing. While they were comfortable, you were adapting. You stopped sharing plans, stopped announcing moves, stopped seeking approval. You became strategic, and strategy scares ego, because it can't be rushed or manipulated. They noticed how you speak less now, how you choose words carefully, how you don't react immediately, how nothing seems to shake you. That calm, it isn't peace, it's control. They mistake your restraint for weakness, but restraint is what predators use. You no longer rush to prove yourself, because people who need to prove something are already losing. Your presence changed. Even when you say nothing, it says everything. Your posture, your eyes, your energy, it tells them one thing: you don't matter the way you used to. That realization hits ego like a slow poison. No drama, no explosion, just decay. They ask themselves questions they never asked before. Did we misjudge them? Were they always this strong? Did we push too far? But ego won't let them admit fault. They label you cold, selfish, arrogant, not because it's true, but because it protects their self-image. You became the mirror they refuse to look into. They regret it, not because they miss you, but because losing you exposed their limitations. You grew without them, and that terrifies people who thought you needed them. This is why they watch from a distance now. Every achievement, every shift, every quiet win. They don't celebrate you, they analyze you, because deep down, they know something dangerous. If you could become this strong after being broken, what happens next? You didn't become heartless. You became precise. You give attention intentionally, trust selectively, access rarely. You understand now. Not everyone deserves proximity. Some people only deserve memory. This is the villain era. Not loud, not reckless, not cruel, controlled, detached, unshakable. You don't chase respect anymore. You command it by walking away from disrespect. You don't even notice them anymore. They exist only. In the past you outgrew. You hurt 1,000 egos because you chose self-respect over approval, because you chose silence over explanation, because you chose growth over revenge.